The prophecy of a Chernivtsi nun in the 80s of the last century. It says that demons will walk the streets in human bodies. Saint John Cassian the Roman, 4th century. From a conversation about evil spirits. A time will come when the souls of some people will suffer in hell. And in their bodies, demons will walk on earth and communicate with people. I started going to St. Nicholas Church in the early 80s. At that time there was one cathedral in Chernivtsi on Ruska Street, which means Rus. The Cathedral of St. Nicholas. I was brought there by Father Mikhailu Koblia, the secretary of the Bishop of Chernivtsi in Bukovina, Bishop Anthony. Father Mikhailu lived on the same street as me, and he rented a room from his neighbors nearby. He was originally from Khmelnytsky. So he introduced me to the regent, Father Vasil Zapotekny. I started singing in the bishop's choir. I liked to come to this ancient church on weekdays. On weekdays, church old-timers, elderly women and men came to services in the church. And I felt that they were very church-aware. And I was interested in everything. I approached them and asked about things that interested me. About icons, about their antiquity, about the meaning of rituals, about paintings. And they were happy to answer me. Later I found out that these elderly women were nuns of the Sviatovidensky convent on Bukovinska Street, which was liquidated by the Soviets in the 1960s. They now lived in apartments and went to pray in the Church of St. Nicholas, fulfilling their monastic rule. There was a particularly bright nun among them, with a young physique, clear blue lively eyes, and a voice like a girl's, although she was already in her 60s. Such a combination of youthfulness of soul, activity of emotions, clear tone of voice, pure eyes, and old age is a miracle. She always smiled through sadness and wisdom. Her name, I think, was Nun Valeria. Later, after her death, I learned from Bishop Onufry that Nun Valeria was a visionary and had a constant Jesus prayer. Once, after the evening service, Nun Valeria took special time for me, telling me, a 20-year-old boy, Roman, there will come a time when you will live, and I will be gone. Bread in the store will cost 100 rubles, and clean water will be a real value and will be sold in stores. And I will tell you something else important. People will be walking down the streets, and you will communicate with them, you will think that this is a person, but it will be a devil in a human body. Oh, my dear mother, how can this be? Bread that costs 16 kopecks will be 100 rubles. And what about water? We have water pumps on every street in the city. There is even a pump in Roshcha near the Jewish market. The water is excellent. And people drink from the tap, my friends on the avenue. All this seemed interesting to me, but somehow unreal. Some kind of superstition. But it still stuck in my memory. Years have passed. And the Holy Spirit Cathedral was opened, where I also sang in the choir. And then the nuns returned in 1994 to the Sviatovidensky Monastery on Bukovinska Street. Later I became a priest and moved to Kiev. I studied at the seminary. And here are the first reforms. And coupons. And bread really became 100 rubles. And later, bottled water appeared in the store. And the wells became contaminated. And the columns in the city were eliminated. And clean water became of strategic importance. And then I remembered the prophecy of Nun Valeria. And I thought, God's nun was really right. Drinking water is sold in stores. And bread for 100 rubles. And even more. But what about the third prophecy? That devils would walk like people. And one would not be able to distinguish between a human and a devil. And I began to look closely at people, looking for signs. At this time of my reflections, while reading the writings of the Holy Fathers, I came across a book by a 4th century saint. It was by Father John Cassian of Rome. A conversation about evil spirits. Saint John Cassian was a Christian monk, an ascetic. He was also a theologian and writer. John was born on the territory of modern Romania, then part of the Roman Empire. He led an ascetic life and traveled. He wrote a lot about discipline and his own experience, about temptations. Saint John Cassian is considered one of the founders of monasticism in Galicia, where the saint moved to live. In his discourse on evil spirits, there is the following prophecy. It is a prophecy about our present. He wrote that there will come such times, the last times before the coming of the Antichrist, that human bodies will be possessed by demons, and the souls of these people will suffer in hell, and in their bodies demons will walk among people on the earth. And no one will be able to understand that it is a demon, not a person. When I read this from Saint Cassian, I once again recalled the prophecy of the Chernivtsi nun Valeria in the early 80s, who could not have known these writings of the saint. There was no spiritual literature at that time, and the saint's writings had not been translated from Greek at that time. It is with this view that I communicate with people today and find signs of the presence of demons in people. But I will tell you about these signs, dear listener, in another conversation.